So look, you are broke, and quite frankly, that's okay, as long as you make the conscious decision to change your life circumstance, or go back to eating Cheetos and playing Fortnite. Honestly, up to you. But if you're watching this video, I want to actually congratulate you, because you took the first step, and the first step is acknowledging that you are not where you want to be, and accepting the fact that it is in your power to change that. So if you watch the entirety of this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to assess your current situation, look at your strengths, your weaknesses, and how to use that to your advantage to go from broke to financially flourishing. Now, the first thing you need to do is honestly assess your assets. And I'm not talking about your real estate portfolio or your stock portfolio or your crypto. I'm talking about the advantages that you have, sort of the intangible assets that you have in your life. You need to understand in this world, you get paid in accordance to the value or problems that you solve. Everyone has competitive advantages. Some are natural born and some are cultivated. You need to lean into your advantages. And funnily enough, if you live at home in your mom's basement, you still actually have an advantage. And I'll tell you what that is in just a second. Now, one advantage, and as everyone understands, the more money you have, the more money you can make with said money. Well, that's out of the window as per the title. You're broke, so that's not an advantage that you have. So what are some of the other assets that you can lean on? Well, the first one is hard work. It kind of annoys me because sometimes you get a lot of these self-help people, they talk about hard work as if everyone is hardworking, or it's just like this easy thing. It's like, oh yeah, you just work hard and you'll be successful. And yeah, sure, but the reason we admire people who are hardworking is because it's not a very common trait, and most people are not going to possess that trait. And I'll be honest, I'm not particularly the hardest working person. I just have other personality traits that I really leaned into that propelled me to my level of success. Now, bear in mind, from the age of 14 to 18, 19, even 20, hard work was the main thing that I leaned on. Still, I would not consider myself the hardest worker in the room by no stretch of the imagination, but I earned my stripes, and that is the key. All of you watching this need to earn your stripes. Hard work, dedication, and discipline is very, very important. There's no way that you get around that to reach your goal of 6 figures. Whereas this may sound really weird to you guys, but you can go from 7 to 8 figures while working a lot less hard, being more sloppy with your habits, less disciplined, all these things because you're actually leaning on different mechanisms to go from that stage to the next. And the other thing that I want to mention is, for me, when I started nearly this 10-year journey back in 2014, when I started my first business, which was flipping Instagram accounts, when I started reading a book a week and I started meditating every single day, I think back then it was a lot easier to focus than it is in the world we live in right now with short form content and TikTok and all of these distractions. And it feels like every year there's just more and more distractions. So if you are one of those people who just happens to be an extremely hard worker, a person who can really lock in on a task without getting distracted, that is a massive advantage. And that is something that most people do not possess in the time that we live in. But as I said, you do not need to be David Goggins.
You know how it is when you fight somebody and you broke that He's like, oh God, man, I don't want to go back to the next round. And you feel like, my God, I can fight all day.
And I think of all the different assets that I want you to evaluate in your life that I'm going to show you, then you can actually make a game plan for which vehicle am I going to use to get me to financial abundance. So as I said, hard work, discipline is a given, but don't think that being the hardest worker is the thing that's really going to propel you to success. Of the 4, I'd say it's probably third most important, maybe even fourth most important. Now, the next asset that you can have is your skill set. But the issue is that most people major in minor things. I'll give you a perfect example. Video games. I know that the gamers, I get so much backlash from people, when they tell me, oh, but you don't understand, gaming helps me socialize, or there's people who make millions with gaming. And I'm like, yeah, the people who make millions from gaming, they're not you. You know why? Because the people making millions from gaming, they're not commenting on my YouTube videos being like, no, but there's people out there who make millions from gaming. And I'm like, that's cool, but they're not you, quite clearly. So I don't know why you're trying to stand up for it. And that is a perfect example of people majoring in minor things. Great. Can you even finish Fortnite? Like, you completed Fortnite, or you completed some video game, or I don't know, you got some ranking in some world. Cool, great. You majored in a minor thing, something that is irrelevant to the quality of your life, something that is irrelevant to building a beautiful future for you and your family. You majored in something so minor that your kid will never be like, oh, Dad, Mom told me that you were so good at Call of Duty back in the day. That makes me so proud that you're They don't care. So stop majoring in minor things. And by the way, it is so important to have hobbies. I recently started taking tennis classes multiple times a week. Am I gonna become a professional tennis player? No, but I have my businesses, I have my skill sets that make me lots and lots, many millions a year. And now I have my side hobby. And by the way, I think if I started gaming now, because a lot of people will give me the Elon Musk example, Elon Musk is allowed to game. He's allowed to game a little to take his mind off it. I don't think it's necessarily the smartest thing to do because it's so easy to get hooked. But if he does it, or let's say I started gaming, sure, fine, that's acceptable. As I said, do not get consumed by something that is not gonna get you paid if you already don't have anything in your life that does get you paid. By far, above anything, the best asset that you can have in life is your skill set, because because no matter what life throws at you, let's say you lose everything, if you have your skill set, you can climb back up to the top of the mountain very, very quickly. So there are certain skills that are very useful for the rest of your life, no matter what you are doing. Things like sales, marketing, even things like Excel spreadsheets. I cannot tell you the amount of people that I know who are like, hey, who do you use for Excel spreadsheets? Or, how did you put this spreadsheet together? I don't know how to use Excel spreadsheet, but people in my company who are paid very, very handsomely, they do know how to use it. Things like that, things like accounting, things like editing. If you have skills in one of those areas, consider this an asset that you have in your life. It's funny, whenever I'm considering whether or not I should learn a skill set, and by the way, this is outside of hobbies, I'm always thinking, hey, in the time that I live in, with the businesses that I have, this applies. But let's say I go into a totally different industry, I go into a totally different life path in 10 or 20 years, would this be a skill set that is evergreen? Is this a skill set that will be beneficial for the rest of my life? And if the answer is yes, then I will always have a keen interest in learning it. Now, the next asset that you can have is a strong network. But most importantly, you need a strong network and to be in an industry where that network actually brings you value. And many people have made a full-time living just by having a strong network. But first, you need to decipher and be very honest with yourself. How strong is your network actually? I see a lot of people talk about how strong their network is, and then I do a little bit of digging. And what they mean is there's 3 high school friends, one went on to be a junior assistant at this company, and another went on to work at Goldman Sachs, and then another one went on to work at HSBC as a very low-level manager. A lot of people really overestimate the value of their network, because just remember, your network is not who you know. Your network is who you can call for a favor at 3 a.m. in the morning. No matter what it is, that person will do it for you. That is your network, not who you've had a couple DM exchanges back and forth on Instagram. Now, going on to the other point that I mentioned, which is it's one thing to have a network, it's another thing to actually have a network that makes you money. And here's what I mean by that. I was hanging out with my friend a couple days ago, and his network is insane. He's friends with Nelk Boys, a lot of the rappers, a lot of the biggest restaurant owners, promoters, club owners, all this stuff. His network is very, very useful because a lot of people, when they go to Miami, they can hit him up for connections and tables and this and that. Or, if someone wants to go to Monaco F1 or wants to get UFC tickets, this person is so well connected, they can arrange all that stuff. So because his connections are so strong and it's taken him so many years to build those connections, he can actually monetize per request. Whereas for me, for example, I have an extremely strong network, but my network does not help my software company in any way, shape, form, or fashion. My network has almost nothing to do with my net worth. I've built up my network because you get to a certain point in life where you like having other very, very high value people around. It is very nice that I can call on favors from, so many people, and it doesn't matter what country I go to, I get special treatment because of the people that I know and because of my close network. But at the end of the day, that doesn't make me any extra money. Make a decision, the industry or path that you want to go to in life. And then even if you do have a strong network, be honest with yourself if your network actually ends up making you more money and is an asset to your financial abundance. Because as I said, even in my situation, my network has basically nothing to do with my